What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. Today we are continuing our playoff previews, as today we are looking at the state of the Sunshine State battle. What is it? The face-off of the Sunshine State, something like that, between the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Kind of seems like they've been playing to play each other, if that makes sense. They've both kind of been letting the Leafs take that first spot in the division, and almost seemingly so they could play each other in the first round of the playoffs again. The Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning are matching up again in the first round of the playoffs. We're going to discuss this series. This is going to be a good series, so buckle up, grab a snack, and let's take a look at this series. So, the Florida Panthers, the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's been kind of a back and forth series, really, over the past 5 years. It's been almost an annual thing at this point, and it's really brewed the rivalry between these two teams. As of the making of today's video, the Tampa Bay Lightning do have home ice advantage. I don't know if that's going to sit by the end of the season, but at this point, Tampa Bay does have home ice advantage here on April 16th at the recording of this video. If that does change, Florida ends up getting home ice advantage, then obviously, take with that what you will. But I think this is going to be a matchup between two teams that, the Florida Panthers stumbled out of the gate. Then they really got They got a ton of fire going. They were able to play really well, mostly throughout this season. Tampa Bay kind of looked like early on, like they might not even be a playoff team. They were kind of struggling in the wild card position. And then all of a sudden, they just shot their way up to where they are now, which, whoa, look, here we are around game 80, game 82. And they have almost 100 points this season. It's been a really nice turnaround for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like I said, there was a lot of concerns back in November, December. Would Tampa Bay make the playoffs? And there was teams like Buffalo around there, Detroit, the New York teams, right? There was a lot of competition there, and there was kind of a question of Tampa, could they actually get in? That's obviously been settled. They will be playing in the playoffs. They will be playing Florida again. But there was that concern back in, not that long ago, 4 months ago? So, looking at the injuries for the Tampa Bay Lightning, we're going to start off with the Bolts here. Bjorkstrand's out with a lower body injury. Mitchell Chaffee out with a head injury. And April 9th, we saw Luke Glendening out with an upper body injury. There's really been nothing to kind of say yet on these injuries. If they are without Bjorkstrand and it's a week-to-week timeline, that sucks, because that's one of the big additions they made at the trade deadline, right? We saw that trade with the Seattle Kraken, bringing back Yanni Gourde and Oliver Bjorkstrand, former Columbus Blue Jacket. It would suck to not have him in the lineup, but as of right now, it kind of looks like they're going to be without him in this year's playoff run. Now, looking at their goals, their power play, penalty kill, both of those very solid as always in Tampa Bay. Power play, very solid. Penalty kill, very solid. Goals for, Tampa Bay has the most goals for this season at the top of the National Hockey League. So this team scores a lot of goals. They also keep the puck out of the net. Third best goals against in the entire National Hockey League. So there's a team that they can score and keep the puck out of the net. You're going to win a lot of games with that recipe. And that's been the case for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Looking at some of their top point producers, another incredible season for Nikita Kucherov. Anybody that thought he was kind of falling off, you might want to reconsider that. 120 points this season, 84 assists for Nikita Kucherov, almost a 40-goal season for him this year. Really solid numbers. There's not much to debate here. He leads the NHL in points with 121 and assists with 84. Also, the most power play goals, kind of an interesting stat. The most power play goals in the National Hockey League, two of those players at the top of the list are on Tampa Bay. You got Jake Gensel with 17 power play goals this season, Braden Point with 16. That's a lethal bunch. This team is loaded. And then you also consider the best point, the best plus minus in the National Hockey League. It's Ryan McDonagh. Yeah, a plus 44 for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He leads the entire National Hockey League in the plus minus category. So a couple of pretty major stats for the Tampa Bay Lightning in their favor here. So if that has any indication of what you can expect from this series from Tampa, they've been hot. Very, very hot. And we expect the Tampa Bay Lightning to make the playoffs. We expect them to do well. But this seems like a different level of good for Tampa Bay that a lot of people really haven't been talking about all that recently. Now, also, you've got Braden Hagel with 90 points this season. He's got 35 goals, 55 assists. He's been having a day. And then Braden Point also and Jake Gensel, they're basically all four of those guys are a point per game player. So the Tampa Bay Lightning up top is loaded. And the question is, what is going to be kind of the story with the depth. The depth guys like Nick Perbix, JJ Moser, you were kind of hoping for more from Oliver Bjorkstrand if he's healthy or not. Oliver Bjorkstrand. Seeing some of the younger guys on this team kind of coming up, you're going to need to see them get some production. That's going to be a key factor here in this series for both the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers, which we're going to talk about here now. So the Florida Panthers situation is also pretty solid. Maybe not in the top 10 categories in the way that Tampa Bay is, but their goals for 14th best in the league, goals against 7th best in the National Hockey League. So again, you're seeing the top teams in the Atlantic. They tend to keep the puck out of the net. That's obviously a big thing across the league, specifically for these teams though. Now, a couple of things to note. Both the Tkachuks are injured at the making of this video. We expect them to be back for the playoffs, but when you have an injury since February 20th, Matthew Tkachuk has been out with a groin injury. He is expected to return for the first round of the playoffs. That's been a lot of the indications, but we don't know for certain yet. Now, a couple guys have been resting for the Florida Panthers. Again, this is more like maybe just a nagging injury that they're just kind of resting before Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs this weekend. You have Sam Reinhart, Tomas Nosek, Anton Lundell, AJ Greer, Gustav Forsling, and Alexander Barkov. They've been all kind of in a carousel of the scratch pad for the last really week or two for the Florida Panthers, so this is nothing really too surprising, but it is something that I figured I'd note on the channel. Power play, 23%. That's pretty solid. That's top 10 in the league. Also, their penalty kill, pretty solid, right or hovering around 81 to 80%. Again, can't complain about that. The top point producers for the Florida Panthers, probably not going to surprise you too much. Barkov, Reinhart, Tkachuk, Verhaeghe, similar story here for the Florida Panthers. Maybe not the 121 and 90 point seasons like we see with some of the guys in Tampa, but still solid numbers. And there's a team that scores a lot more by committee. It's not everybody. It's not the top guys, and you don't know what you're getting from the depth. It's a lot more well-rounded with the Florida Panthers, and that's kind of the difference between the Panthers of the teams maybe in, say, 2018, 2019, 2020, when they were having some struggles against the Tampa Bay Lightning, against the teams really the last 3 years. They've been able to win these series because they just have that little bit better depth down the lineup, and I think that could be the difference in this series here as well. Goaltending, kind of an interesting story. A little bit different than what we're used to seeing. It's been pretty split for the most part. 23 games for Spencer Knight. He's no longer with the team. Vitek Vanacek is now the backup. But you got Vanacek and Sergei Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky is the starter for this team going into the postseason. He's got a .905 save percentage. Again, nothing crazy good, but good enough. And when the Panthers are scoring goals, their defense is very solid. This is a top 5 defense in the National Hockey League, all around solid. That's going to be really important for this series against the Bolts. And that kind of brings us to the conclusion of today's video, which is, what do you guys think is going to be the team that comes out on top? Maybe playing Toronto or Ottawa in the second round of the playoffs. I got to say right now, I think the depth is better for the Florida Panthers. I think that, excuse me, I think the Tampa Bay Lightning, very top heavy. Gensel, Kucherov, Hagel, all those guys, very solid. The numbers are sexy. Most goals for this season, third best goals against this season. It's going to be tough to go against them in this series, but listen, the playoffs are a different animal. So with that said, I think Florida has been consistently a better team, but then you kind of go to the conversation of, well, who's been the hotter team? Like I said, when we started this video, back in November, December, there was genuine concern about what was going to happen to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Were they going to even make the playoffs? And they just bolted their way back up to the top of the NHL standings, and pun intended, bolting their way back to the standings toward the top. And I think the Tampa Bay Lightning will ultimately win this series. I know I kind of had you guys there for a minute. I think that, between these two teams, they're two really good teams. But I just think that the Tampa Bay Lightning, I think they have one more good run in them. And I think they know that. I think that the depth of this team can do enough. Vasilevsky has been solid, quietly, but solid. I think they want one more good run from these guys. And I think with how hot they've been in the second half of the season, I think that's the narrowing edge they have over the Florida Panthers. This is a tough series to predict. You could flip back and forth, look at all the different stats between these two teams. At the end of the day, the stats don't matter in game one, between game 1 and game 7, but it is something to base off of going into a series. And I just think the Tampa Bay Lightning win this, and I honestly, in the dream world, Tampa Bay wins this series in 9 or 10. Because I want this series to go more than 7 games. If this series is any less than 7 games, we will be robbed of this series. Because this is one that, as much as there's a couple of great series around the NHL in the first round, Florida-Tampa is kind of the new version of the East with the Washington Capitals and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Just, they constantly bicker. They play each other every year. There's so much of that heated rivalry between each other. Location, standings-wise, all that stuff. They're just in the right window together. And I ultimately think Tampa Bay is going to come out on top in this one. But let me know what you guys think down below. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys again next time. Peace out, guys.